uh, character development and perspective, are those together or are those two separate?
Or they're together and they're separate. Hold on, I'm just trying to see if everything is working.
Make it back up.
There we go. Yeah, they're separate and they're
All
like
right.
together at the same time. Because it's something like I'm gonna bring up Human Echo for example, because that's what brought it up. It's like they develop the characters, but it's not directly. It's through indirect scenes, but they add to the character. Like for example, there's I'm not gonna get to spoilers, but there's two characters, right,
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
who are evil or and are abusive on the surface, right? And
Mm.
then as the story progresses, you don't even really learn about them until like 3 episodes later. And as the story progresses, you see how they got brought up, not them directly, but how the family got brought up,
Mm.
the the philosophy the family had, and the type of situation they were in. So that and then that adds character development, and it also adds perspective because then you go back to the scenes and you start to realize why they did what they did and why they act the way they act.
Mm.
It's kind of I don't know how to explain. I think that's a good way to explain it though. It's
So
like
what? So oh gosh, go on. Let me finish.
yeah, it's like as you as you learn more about their psychology, you can understand. I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna leave it at that. Yeah, I'm not gonna explain
Mm.
anymore. It's basically about
Okay.
how indirect scenes.
I think I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I overlooked one part when you said how do they learn about the character? It's not directly? You said it's indirectly. So is it like through their family or something?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't get to spoilers because Will is supposed to read it, but
Mm-mm.
the characters get brought up in like a they get brought up in like a no a noble family, right?
Mm-mm.
So how the noble families go, they look down on women and they support the men. Like you're just a
Ah,
vessel for babies to get born, and you start to
ah,
realize the situations the siblings were in
mm,
because they're all very highly competitive because they all want to be the head of the house.
mm, mm,
So
mm, mm.
the specific people don't get the shown, but the other siblings get shown, and that directly adds to their character, and or indirectly adds to their character because you start to see more
Okay,
perspective. You start to
so
see,
you see the dynamic and environment they were born in through their other members of the family or something.
yeah,
Like
so
end up
you,
seeing them directly. So
yeah,
yeah,
you start
okay,
to have more
I get.
perspective. Start to see,
Mm,
yeah,
mm.
I like how they did.
Okay, no, yeah, that makes perfect sense. What is it about that you want to talk about? Is it just like that in general, or how they do that, or
I think
was just
it's
stuff that in general?
I kind of want to just bring that up because of human echo, but let's see.
My goodness.
Let's see. I mean, I
I
think that's a
think
good thing for
talk about.
stories to have
Yeah.
because a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of
yeah, that,
stories are so upfront with
oh yeah.
how characters get developed.
Mm-mm.
I think
That's.
Gentop was also a good example of this, where his
Mm-mm.
character development isn't really shown directly; it's shown throughout the his relationships.
Mm-mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, it's not told. It's not told like you don't go up to the main the bad main bad guy or whatever, and they start dropping like flashbacks or telling you a whole backstory. It's kind of shown in like through yeah, like I don't know, it's through seeing maybe where they've been or the environment they lived in.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
key thing to.
Basically, the characters build up through the plot, not through specific scenes.
Yeah. I
Mm.
agree that like speaking on because I don't have Yumineko experience, but I have Gintama experience, and like one scene, spoilers. So one scene that really like hit home to me
Mm.
was in the arc. There was this arc where like Shinpachi's quote unquote older brother comes back,
Oh yeah.
and like stuff happens, and essentially, Yin has to, um, because you've known from previous arcs, because he's said certain things like this, where he's like, I don't want, like, I think somebody like wanted to like mess up Otose's snack shop, and Yin like wanted to do it on his own because he's been through stuff. You don't know what he's been through because they tell his backstory in reverse, kind of. They start from like right before the story, and then they move backwards to the inciting event that like led him to all that.
Okay.
But what I really liked is he's like, I don't care if you guys don't live a fun life. I just don't want to go through that again. Which that was like really um, important because you get the sense that he cares for them, but he's also really selfish in a way because he doesn't he he wants to do what he thinks is best for them for himself. And we get this scene where it sort of tells us the same thing without him really having to say it. He goes off to fight the guy on his own. Like he's like, I'm gonna do it on his own, and they try to stop him, and he throws like Shinpachi into a tree. He says some stuff, and he just goes off. But it's still in character. It's not like he's it's like I hate that when like the characters like act bad. That's in character for him. And then you get a scene
Because there's a reason to be like that now because of the stuff that's happened to him. But the only difference is you don't know specifically what it is that happened.
Yeah.
But you sense there is a reason behind it through his actions.
Yeah.
And although in that moment it comes out like not sudden, but it's a different shift to probably what you've seen of him before. It still fits, especially I guess when you actually start unfolding what's really what happened there. Again, that's another just really good
All of these need to be drawn.
What I really liked was that when Shinpachi and his sister and Kagura were trying to find where Gin and the guy was fighting, Sogo was like, "Oh, I know where he is." Yada 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 yada, and he shows him this picture on his phone, and it's Gintoki bowing on his knees, asking for permission to deal with this problem on his own because he'd rather try to figure out the problem by himself or everyone else than have the police come in and just kill the guy right away.
Okay.
And that to me showed like a lot of his character, like without him ever really having to say anything. Like he didn't have to say, I don't want you guys to get hurt. You can just that one action is like, I care more about you guys than I care about myself. I'd rather take care of this so that you guys don't have to. I want you guys to like remain in your youth in a sense. I'm the much older figure. I want to handle these problems for you guys. Like I got so much from just him bowing down, asking for permission because he's a prideful guy. Like his interactions with the Shinsengumi, they both are very prideful to each other. Like they don't ask each other help. And so for him to do that, or like for him to like cast away all his pride to like bow down,
it says a lot. It says whatever's making him do that is a big deal because he won't do that. Yeah. No, makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Especially when he's stronger than everyone there. So for him to bow down and ask them to protect his friends while he goes and does this on his own, that kind of stuff, those actions just tell me so much more than him saying, I don't want you guys to get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the reason why that works again is because they've established what he's like in the current story before that happened. So you get a good sense of who he is and like what he's about before that moment. Um, yeah, that's like the one major reason that works. Yeah, I don't know. I got an example of that. Uh, this is not. Luffy's a good example. Well, One Piece always comes to me, but Luffy's a good example. And a lot of characters from One Piece, good example. But yeah, Luffy in a big way because like you are. Oh, what got a specific example? Like you
Let's
don't get.
say Ace's backstory, I guess.
That's one of them because you obviously like you know you want to become Pirate King and everything, and like like you meet his brother around. I forgot who you meet him, but yeah, you meet his brother and he's like, you know, it's like okay, you and like nothing be fine. Something's you got you guys in it. Now there's uh the whole war arc with Whitebeard and that stuff happened. And like actually like even before then because I think his card was kind of like it was burning away which showed that he was in danger and Luffy like he saw that and he's like they was like oh should we go and try and help him and he's like nah man he's like he's got his own adventures isn't he screw that and I was like to see him actually like I don't know so you see him actually reach points like okay nah I have to go and I have to go and save my brother and that stuff after like that like it's telling through like because like in the first point like he didn't go straight away okay we got to go save him because he sees his like his blue card like I don't know just showing that he was hurt he's like nah like he's got his own adventure in it and after like you see the whole backstory and how they came about it's like okay yeah okay it just adds up yeah.
And I can't stress like how important it is um to give us like character because I guess I should preface this by saying that I have a distinction between character development and character growth, which is like development sort of shows me more about a character than I already knew. Like shows me another side of the character.
Yeah.
Whereas character growth is the characters change throughout the journey. And like character development is so like I don't know, those moments for me are much more impactful when you just get like one little action that just can make you learn so much about someone than a character saying something. I don't know.
Nah, I think I get it. Kind of like back to the Gintama example. It's kind of like
In general.
because you know what he's like as a person already. So after when he does an action that's not like that, it gives you insight to like okay, like he won't normally do this, but he's doing that now. Hence, there must be like it gets you thinking about okay, there must be a reason in his his backstory or something happened in his history or this situation is not the same as any other situation. You know what I mean? So yeah. You'll say I think it just really makes you more curious about like what the heck's going on in that point in the story. It's like, wow, okay, things changing. He's doing something. This is irregular.
I have a question though. Would you say that every scene has some sort of character development in it?
I wouldn't say every scene. I feel like, well,
Not every scene, but like the majority of scenes in a story. Do you think it has some sort of character development in it?
yeah, I think it does. I think it adds
I mean,
layers, but not like big layers, but like little small layers. Or they certified, not certified. What's the right word? Not certified, but it's like
Not official.
goodness. Anyways, these scenes, they. I forget about it. I forgot the word.
I don't know. Yeah, no, I wouldn't say not necessarily. I depend. Okay, I guess. Well, obvious thing is like, well, it depends on the story,
Yeah.
and like how regularly that comes up. Or any story of assault should probably have like some decent form of that. And then beyond that, it's just it just it mainly depends on the story. But I think a decent story would have some level of consistent development, because that's part of the appeal of stories. Like you know what these characters and how they act in this situation, and how would they do this and how would they do that, and in
Yeah,
contrast to that, how would you do that? Like I think that's kind of one of the biggest appeals of the character. So
I think that's why I like a lot of stories that take their time, because like that's where the real character development is. Because like
yeah,
you get stories that take their time, you get to sort of see the inner workings of how even the cast just interact with each other. Like I really
yeah,
like the Naruto episodes where they weren't on missions; they were just chilling in the village. Because
mm,
I got to see who interacted with who hangs out with who, what do they do, what you get a better understanding of the type of people they are and the type of people they
mm,
like keep around them in their spare time, you know, all that sort of stuff. And a lot of stories,
mm.
they don't really give us that. Like,
Yeah. I think a lot of stories, especially I don't know, especially some anime, quite a lot of anime nowadays. They just they like speed run the whole character development thing to get to whatever plot they want to get to.
yeah,
Somebody's
like they
mic's
get
messed
their
up.
Yeah, it's sad but true. A lot of them is like, oh yeah, you've probably seen this a lot of times. I just want to make my version. Here's it's the same story, but this time this guy's got a blue T-shirt. I don't know, and they just want to get straight to the part which they're excited about. Which yeah,
Mhm.
those most of them stories are not my kind. I like the ones that kind of like develop the characters, because that way you understand, like when things do go down, you actually understand who the hell these characters are and what's
Yeah,
the significance of their actions, because you actually understand like some of their psychology how they act in general. So
yeah,
I don't know, just it's just a general fact that if you think about the more longer you're around someone, especially if they've got a good character, the more you're gonna like that. Same applies to characters. The more time you have them on the page, and if the character writing is good and the development is good, the more invested you're gonna be in the outcome of them when stuff do hit the fan.
yeah.
Have you read Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint before? Yeah, yeah, I've read Omniscient Viewpoint. Stephen King, he does that a lot. It's really good. Like it's obviously all of them have their plus and that have a good and bad. It really depends on kind of what you want to do. So the best thing about that is you get freedom to kind of choose anywhere you want to like set the scene, or you can get into one character's mind and get to another character's mind in almost any order you want. The bad thing about it is though, if you're not careful and you don't write things properly, you could lose everyone in the source, especially if you have a bunch of characters and you just jump in everyone's heads. Also, when it's done well, the almost inevitable part of it is you you lose what do you call it? There's a word for it. But basically, you lose where the reader's real like really when they when a reader really feels like they can empathize with the character, like really get into their head. It's the distance between the character they're reading and the reader's like attachment to it is a bit a little more distant in Third Omniscient. It can it can be gapped a bit more if your writing's really good and you can you're really good at like expressing like a character's like thoughts and feelings and that stuff. So you can still probably like tip the balance, but yeah, it really depends like your style, like what you feel like is you're good at, and like basically what you're trying to do in your story. Like Stephen King, he does it really good. Like he does. I think the character writing some of his best. It's like some of his best stuff, and yeah, he does it in third person omniscient. So it feels like actually, in fact, they say when you read his stuff, it almost feels like a movie or a TV show, ironically, which is probably the reason why it gets adapted so much as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So what else do we have to talk about?
Nate wanted to talk about adapting stories to different mediums.
Oh yeah. kind of like we kind of touched on it a bit before, but yeah, it's just a matter of like when you like we're talking about with like some writers who start off and they kind of have they watch a show or watch a movie or watch an anime based in most of our cases, and they're like, oh yeah, this is awesome. I want to make a story like this, and they go and start writing it in book, but they have no real experience or haven't really read much books, so then it comes off like it can come off just a bit bland, especially especially they don't have especially if the inspiration they have is the only inspiration they have to go on. That they don't really add much other ideas to it, and they didn't really infuse it into their own like into their own vision. They're just kind of like, oh, I want this cool thing I saw in this anime, but here's a slightly different one. It's like it can come off flat because one like the medium like I think I understand with when you're writing in a when you're writing in a different like when you're watching a show and then you're trying to write that scene or trying to capture that essence into another medium or book, you're using a different tool, so you got to use that tool in you got to use that tool in a way that you can take the most advantage out of it. But if you're just trying to I'm trying to capture what I saw on the screen onto hair onto written words, you're gonna lose a lot of what makes writing, reading good in the first place. So yeah, I think just being aware of the stuff if you're adapting something, aware of the medium you're using to adapt it, because you can look if you're gonna capture the same essence of what you saw in a show or movie, you probably have to spin it a bit differently in general.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that there's like just like each. I feel like everything has its own base. Like there's sort of like this trunk of a tree where everything like you get the same thing, where you get your storytelling, your overall like story elements and all that stuff, and then you start to like branch out to different things. You get to visual versus written, and then you get to movie versus animation, and like poetry versus prose and all sorts of stuff. And I feel like each thing has what makes it beautiful, and you have to understand the techniques that make that individual thing beautiful on top of understanding what makes the story beautiful.
Exactly.
So like if you watch or like if you watch like a movie or something and you want to write a story, on top of learning how to write a story, you have to learn how to write.
Exactly.
That's Nate just said. Like you definitely have to like understand how the written word works, all the written techniques that because what you use to capture certain emotions and things in movies like cinematography and stuff, you don't get that in books. You have to do something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to play to its advantages basically, because like obviously in a book there's no visuals, but one thing a book has over a movie is you can really get into a character's head in a way that if you do it in a movie, it comes off as cheesy because you have all that inner monologue or all that narration. It's kind of like, well, I'm here to watch a movie. Why am I hearing 2 weeks of narration and 2 weeks? Then 2 months of inner monologues. You know what I mean? It doesn't work. It doesn't work that well. It doesn't translate that well in a movie. Whereas in a book, you can get away with doing that. In fact, sometimes it's just a boon of the medium. So yeah, just play into the gems. Due to anime, that's what I find that when people do an adaptation of like a book or even a lot of anime, it's quite interesting when you watch how they adapt like something from manga to an anime. Like I think that type of manga to anime is probably the most like
I think the most.
I
I think
think it's, but it's the least compared to a book to like a movie. It has the less I
jarring
guess
transition.
yeah. But even in that there is like there are
Like
things.
even in anime, a lot of it is like the colors, the music, the voice acting, the animation itself. Whereas in like manga, a lot of it is the paneling, like how you panel certain scenes, like put characters on the bubbles, the dialogue bubbles, the artwork, like even even
Yeah,
though we say that those two are close, there's so many differences that you really have to like understand story, and then you have to understand the craft of
mm.
whatever medium you're trying to get into.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, there's a whole layer of like art to actually just doing, even just to do manga, like you're just saying. And yeah, that's always fun. Like when something's being adapted, I always find it interesting because it's like, oh, okay, does the person who's adapting it, do they have like an inherent understanding of the actual thing they're adapting, and trying to like, trying to bring that, keep that essence of it into whatever medium they're gonna put it in, or are they just literally just gonna try and copy and paste every scene and hope for the best? Like,
Yeah,
I know which one I'll put my money on. Yeah, it's
yeah.
always fun.
Honestly, that's really hard. It's really hard to learn that because
Mm, mm,
how would I put this?
yeah, got to do
Not the
research.
most exciting thing to do
Mm.
for me.
Depends. I mean, that's the thing. I think a good adaptation is of it. When you find a really good adaptation work, most times the person who did it was a big fan of the work and really wanted to get that, and probably into a medium they're good at. So maybe a really good like movie director, he really liked a certain manga and now he wants to adapt it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because he loves it, it's the hard work is not that deep for him. It's just a matter of just doing the research and then actually just like being aware of, oh, I can't just copy this panel for panel and make it work. But um,
True.
but yeah, beyond that, it isn't as easy as, I guess, what is. It isn't easy as most people probably think. Oh yeah, just get it and copy it one for one.
I have a question. What do you think is the worst transition?
Well, like, in what medium? I'm not sure what you mean.
Like, if you were to transition a story from one medium to the next, which one do you think is like the worst?
Ooh, the most jarring.
Yeah.
Good question. My head keeps going back to like writing a very, or like the one like it's just hard. Like, you would, like, if you were to do it, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. Or like you've seen some adaptation, you're like, yo, this just doesn't work.
Yeah, I'll say a really long running book or a really long running show put into a movie.
Yeah, I say something like that. Probably like the one I was, huh? Well, I guess live actions those aren't good, especially
For
like.
me,
Hmm.
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, say that again. A lot of what?
No, go ahead. Well,
Oh, I was saying for me, probably a video game to a movie.
oh, you mean that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say a
No.
video game to a movie, especially like multiple choice video games.
Oh, okay. Yeah, multiple choice. Yeah, yeah. Oh boy. No, yeah. Video games is like, in general, it's just like, because it's such a like, put it this way, like, you got books where their big advantage is obviously getting the reader's mind. You got movies which are like, they're really good at being like really tight, concise, but like, if done well, can be really flipping good. Then you got TV shows which kind of like, I'll say it's like you got more leeway to tell a longer story and that stuff. But then you got games where it's like, okay, so games, okay, obviously the most key thing about games is you are able to interact with the actual, you're not a passive viewer. You're active. Um, that's his like main strength. But then it's able to like, it's able to branch out into all the other stuff one
Yeah.
way or another, because it can be a good visual novel. That could be that passes as a game. It could be a very good, like, just the game could be very like having audio in there. It basically has it touches upon all the like other bits of, like, of medium, but it's all in one package. So yeah, it can go like, it really depends on game to game. But yeah, a general game, especially if you're talking multiple choice, adapting that, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. That's why I'm kind of scared for this Halo live action TV. I don't know how that's gonna work.
Yeah, it just
I can see how it can work for
yeah,
Halo.
for Halo as
I
a
could
story. because Halo's not a multiple choice on paper,
Yeah.
it can work. It can work because just look at Star Wars. Because where it's like Halo is the video game equivalent of Star Wars,
Yeah.
and that it can work. So it really just comes down to how it's adapted, and then it's still not easy though because again, like I think that half the actual experience you get from the game,
Playing
yeah,
the game.
is actually playing it. Because Master Chief, the half of the reason why he's quiet in the first place because you the player are him.
Yeah.
Basically.
So
That's the reason why you can
you-
attach yourself a bit more because he's quiet. So yeah,
yeah, that's the one thing because a lot of video games, a lot of the story is told through you playing it. When you look at like a lot of video games, well, a lot of older games especially, like you have your cutscenes and things, but then you have your levels, and your levels have like bits and pieces of story, but it's more made for the enjoyment of the player than it is,
yeah.
say, like The Last of Us, where it's not gameplay oriented, it's story oriented. So the story takes most of your focus.
Yeah. Last of Us is more. Yeah, Last of Us is more a movie put into a game. It's done really well though. It's a good blend. Thing. Like, but I guess like an opposite spectrum of that is Dark Souls. Like,
Yeah, you can't adapt that. That's not gonna adapt.
so yeah, that's yeah, all the best.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of movies just suffer from adapting things that are gonna be cheesy regardless of the acting
Yeah,
and CGI and stuff like that.
yeah.
To the point where it's like it's not even worth it because the like the cringiness is just gonna be too overpowering that they're not gonna focus on the story or the dialogue stuff like that.
Oh, you talking about CGI and everything. You're talking about like the
Yeah, it
actual
could like stuff that's like very sci-fi heavy. It's just kind of bound to fail, in my opinion.
I mean, okay, good. Hey, put it this way. Let me ask you a question. Like, say if it was brought into a company or a studio that had proper budget to make the CGI and everything, good, and it had a good director.
Yeah, like even then, like say for example, like Brotherhood, FMA.
Oh,
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to really capture Envy's death or Mustang setting people on fire. It's gonna be really hard to capture that atmosphere and that tension because
I mean,
it's gonna look too weird and janky, regardless of how good the CGI is.
it's. I mean, I feel it could be done. It's just it's gonna have to look very, and it's gonna have to look very different to the original source material. And the problem with the Fullmetal Alchemist Robert that came out. Okay, yeah, CGI is probably a good part of it, but I think it's mainly they were trying to be too faithful to the source material scene for scene. It doesn't work. You don't want to capture you want to capture the spirit of what the story was telling, like what the story is telling. What was the point of X, Y, and Z that happened in that story, and what was it all trying to reach? What was it all trying to reach to? Then you gotta get that and then tell it in a. The director's got to tell it in a way that's honest to them, and they got to tell it in their own spirit. Basically, I think that's what it is. I imagine a good Full Alchemist Brotherhood live adaptation would have been a little bit more darker than the actual original source material. Less slapstick, jokey for 1 second and then serious another. There will probably have some humor. The humor will have to be toned down to a little more realistic, in a more realistic atmosphere. I think it would have been a little darker if they did it well, but yeah, I think that honestly, I think that was the main problem. Like, yeah, CGI, I think that's the big part. But if that wasn't the issue, I think even if CGI was perfect in that adaptation, it would still have the same problems.
Yeah, because it's like it's hard to capture that type of feel when I really do feel like series like that. I just regardless if they capture like the feeling or the vibe, I should say, of the series, the CGI and stuff like that, it's gonna be too apparent. It's gonna be too like like it's hard to take scenes serious where,
It's CGI's looking like PS2 graphics.
or even like really really good CGI even looks kind of just cringy. Like, say for example,
Yeah.
Endgame or CGI like that, where
Yeah.
it's like the laser beams, stuff like that. They just look so,
Mm.
they look fake, of course, because it is fake. But it can't be done well, or it can't be
Mm.
done in a way where it's not noticeable, or it's too noticeable.
Mm,
I go man from the technological.
I don't know. I mean, here's what's I guess if you really want to like make sure they eliminate CGI problem, they could have went more like actually made actual like costumes and stuff, like more like how Star Wars, original Star Wars and that stuff did their thing. That would have been a better like approach, at least for the visuals. But I don't know, I still feel like I said, I still feel that there would have the problems still would have persist just by how they adapted the actual, just how they directed everything. I think it still would have been a problem. But yeah, I agree. The CGI was a big part of the problem.
No, I just
Um,
mean like in general, CGI in general, not just for
oh,
Metal Alchemist. That was just an example.
okay. Oh, so you're saying even the end game was like, yeah, like
Mm,
you can't take it that
yeah,
seriously.
it's like I'm saying you can't adapt a series that's like sci-fi heavy. Like for Star Wars, it worked because that was part of its charm. Like the jankiness of the laser beams, the jankiness of the lightsabers and the duels. 'Cause that was a part of
Mm.
its charm, so it worked with it. But when it's something when it's something that's like that's a part of the story, but it's not a part of its charm, then you can't. If it's going to end up bad, none of anything else is gonna just get washed away.
Mm. Mm. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it really depends. I mean, I kind of see your point, but I think in my head is like I'm thinking like good CGI is one way you don't really notice it. You don't really like there's some CGI out there we just never know is there. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
get. I'm not talking about CGI. I'm talking about like CGI in sci-fi heavy shows or movies, like where
mm,
CGI is a part of, like a very big part of the movie.
I think that comes more in the tone. Perhaps. Yeah, Star Wars. I don't know. I guess Star Wars. Well, it's not super serious, but it's like it doesn't feel too slapsticky. It doesn't really feel too slapsticky. Even lightsabers, like it just like yeah, it's not something you see really in real life. Well, someone made a lightsaber technically, but it's not something you would typically see. But you get it. It's like oh, this thing is made of superheated, plasma energy beam. You
Yeah,
know, it's all maybe colorful and that stuff, but yeah, if something was superheated like that, it's gonna cut and it's gonna hurt. So
yeah,
it,
yeah.
it
Go ahead.
out there, but it still feels real. I think it still feels real. It still come off as real because yeah,
Yeah, but then again, Star Wars isn't. It's sci-fi heavy, but it's not so reality bending. It's like
you're right.
lightsabers, of course, in our
I agree.
physics, they can't
I
exist,
agree. I agree.
but
I think
they're like
yeah, but,
human-like weapons. So
mm.
they're not like But if
Not too
someone's
hard.
like burning people on fire with the snap of their fingers, then it's like it draws you away because you can't really CGI that very well.
I think I know what you mean.
I,
And
don't-
granted, this is a very fun movie.
I think what you're talking about is more issue, not a different issue, but it's like because what Star Wars does really well, and also Halo does really well, is although it's a sci-fi world, they ground it so well with the world building and everything. Just the set pieces and the setting around it. Like a lot of not say half-assed sci-fi, but a lot of sci-fis which are like in that vein of they don't really work too well CGI. I think one of the biggest problems is they make everything look too squeaky clean. Like everything looks too pristine. Everything looks too like fresh. You know what I mean? Like nothing looks lived in or used in. But where Star Wars and Halo does is really well as well. But everything feels everything feels like okay, it's out there, but everything was lived in. So you just kind of buy it. You buy into it. Like okay, these things are used. These things are part of this world. It's not just oh hey guys, look squeaky clean ship and hey squeaky clean whole city just not
Yeah,
a dirt and stuff because it's future for reasons. Like, nah, well cool. Even if the future, it's gonna have like everything has still gonna be practical use. Not everything's gonna look like I don't know. It came fresh off the I don't know the
Yeah.
fresh out shop. I don't know.
But
Like, yeah, I think you know what I mean, innit? It's like there's
yeah,
this
but I
you know, a lot
think
of sci-fi.
yeah, but I think what you're saying is correct, right? I do feel that, but that only goes for sci-fi series that are more human-like, where like in an alternate reality, something like that could exist. Like Star
Mm,
Wars could exist. Well, I mean,
mm,
kind of, you know. Halo could exist, right? Because
yeah,
they're not like they're not like throwing out ice out of their hands, causing storms and stuff like that. They're not like very eccentric, magic heavy shows. So they're
mm.
more human based. So you can really adapt that because it's not too
Oh, okay, yeah.
outlandish. But when you have like, it's a good example, like One Piece. A live action
Mm.
of that is never gonna work well because you can't do Luffy's, you can't do crocodiles, devil fruit justice, Doflamingos. They're just too eccentric. They're too
Mm.
eccentric. So when you have something like that, that's always gonna be a barrier you can't break because it's gonna be too noticeable. It's gonna draw away from
Yeah.
the dialogue and the story stuff like
Okay, yeah,
that.
yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah, I think yeah. 'Cause I was thinking that even if they were to like make it more, try and make it more grounded in some sort of way, it's gonna take away from. It's just not gonna be the same.
Yeah,
Because I think like even if they like made it like shaman looking or something, but like nah. Even then it's like it's a compromise, but it's still like you're gonna do something with it inevitably.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I see your point. I see your point. I see
See,
your point.
like that's one genre I can't see ever like getting getting a good adaptation in live action.
yeah,
Mm, mm,
I
mm.
understand that, and I think a lot of that is just because of art style that you
Yeah,
can't
exactly.
really transition. Like you kind of made it. You kind of said this, and I guess this is just another take on it for those who may not understand. Is you said that it's in an quote unquote alternate reality. Like we can imagine ourselves looking like this in some way, but in like for example One Piece, people just don't look like that, and
Yeah,
you'd have to do some sort of blend of what we look like with some outlandish sort of thing, and it works because One Piece has an art style. It's animated to look a certain way.
yeah.
They take humans and make us look a certain way. It's just gonna look off-putting.
Yeah. Because just off the gate from it being a manga and like being drawn, it already increases your suspense of disbelief in it. So yeah, off the gate, it's like okay, yeah, this is not exactly grounded human world. So stretchy guys are okay. It seems to be that's okay in this world. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I guess the more realistic it looks, the more you question it. And also when it's real, it's like okay, you really got to sell me on why this guy can stretch me. Yeah, I can see
Yeah, and it's just gonna be janky. It's not gonna work well. It's not gonna look realistic,
that.
basically.
Nah,
And that
nah.
could just be because of our capabilities with CGI right now.
Probably. I mean, that's
Probably,
possible.
yeah. I see what you mean, but I know. I guess I'm always at that mindset of I won't totally rule out. Like it's never like I think a good adaptation of anything can never go 100% be like the thing it originally was. Inevitably, I think any good adaptation um is not going to be exactly the same. And sometimes I would say like I would argue the more it embraces its differences to the original source material in terms of the medium it's in, the better. But but yeah, beyond that, it is like yeah, it's like I said, it just I just don't rule out. It is like you said, but I just don't want to rule out totally like oh this won't ever work 100%. Like actually, I give a good example actually is Battle Angel Alita. Have you watched that? The movie.
Yes, that movie was ass.
Really? Oh, I liked it. That was
You
really good.
did? I did not.
Because I watched the original anime, and I watched that, and it wasn't honestly there wasn't too much difference from it. Like obviously besides
Her
you know
eyes. I just couldn't. I couldn't.
yeah I'm it takes like yeah,
They didn't need to do that.
I don't know. I thought it worked. Like,
Yeah, I haven't
she's
watched
meant
it,
to
so
like she's a robot. Like she's not really like meant to be human anyway. Like human anyway. So
Yeah,
in that sense, it's like
but the eyes, like I could clearly like see it, and it just looked like it just felt like off from everything else around. Like it didn't. It didn't even feel like that's what big eyes would look like on a robot. It looked like they like created some sort of computer image and plastered it on there.
I don't know. Yeah, dude.
Looked weird.
The whole in the whole face like computer animated. Most of it.
I thought it was just the eyes.
I'm pretty sure it's the whole face. So it never really like. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the whole face. Like it's they got obviously the thing where they capture the lips and everything and all that stuff. Because that's face looks quite a bit different. Because I think it's not just her eyes; it's even like her whole cheekbone and everything is a bit more anime than it really is. Very subtle, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
I believe so.
Another thing you guys failed to like talk about in terms of this transition is pacing.
pacing.
Oh, for
Just in general.
presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about movies, yeah, TV shows, depending on the budget and stuff like that, pacing can be done well. I just feel like a lot of these shows that have ass pacing is because they're forced to cram too much content, and they don't have the luxury to just
Yeah.
to have like 300 episodes of this.
Nah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. That's usually most of the time that's like the problem is just like they're trying to cram like 3 books. I don't know why they do that sometimes. Sometimes I'm thinking like, don't you learn your lesson? When you see other people or other shows how to do this, and I still see movie companies and stuff like, oh yeah, we're gonna try to like cram a bit of like 5 books into this one movie.
I never understood it.
How do you think that's gonna work? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Like I get being passionate about it, but like I just don't think that would work. Like you take there's just some books that like a lot of the pacing is slowed down by things like inner like mental or monologue,
Monologue and that stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of that.
descriptions, writing, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Isn't there in movies, and you get these fast-paced works of art where it's like this is not what it felt like when I first experienced this.
You read it. Yeah. I think there is obviously there are good adaptations and there's a balance because I lose the train of thought. I literally thought a good example. Well, I haven't watched this yet, but like, okay, I can give a good example like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, definitely.
There are quite a lot of scenes. I need to go through it myself. But I know that's not in the movie, that's in the books. But it works because the guy he flipping knew what the book was about. He understood the spirit of it, and he just understood how to direct the movie, and he it was a match that worked out. But yeah, a lot of quite a few movies they just kind of I forgot where I was going with this. But yeah, it's a good example. I think I was trying to bring up a bad example, but nothing. Whatever I had is kind of I've lost it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we've discussed that topic to death.
So I mean, we could do power systems, but I don't think anybody has a power system.
It's being recorded, isn't it?
Yeah. Nate has a power system. I have a power system. Would you like to discuss yours first, Nate? Because I know yours is a lot more fleshed out than mine is.
Yeah, it's quite hard. There. Power system is for my one. It's like there's three layers. Like there was the when you start off in the story, you get told about like knight's armor, which is basically like like elemental energy that you can shroud around and stuff, and depending on your nature and your nurture, so basically how you was born and how you was raised, will probably depend on what affinity or basically element you'll get.
Really showed up as soon as we brought up the power systems.
Yeah, okay, just
Yo, I am literally on the train right now. I don't know if y'all can hear that.
He must have
Yeah.
we could hear you. He must have
you sense power levels, man. You literally just start talking about it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we discussed all the other topics, and as soon as we said let's get into power systems, you showed up.
You just showed up. You should check if you got some anime powers there, man. Like I don't know, that time is really impeccable.
Bro. That's ridiculous. I really didn't.
That's the main character timing right there, man.
But shoot, I feel like Goku right now with that kind of timing for real.
Trust Goku when it comes to fight Frieza, man. Like just in time.
But shoot, since we here, well, shoot, let's just jump right into it, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Since you asked a question, I guess what was it? I guess you can bring a question or bring up an. I guess you might as well first. Oh.
I feel like maybe we should get like the power systems that are little, because as soon as you start getting into like very big power systems, it's gonna take a while. So I think I haven't even seen. I don't think Will. So did you talk about your power system? A chapter you have right now?
I have stuff on me that I can talk about right now. All right. So mine is actually it's not in depth in the sense like it's Hunter x Hunter in depth where it has all these rules and stuff. But you have to think of it as a skill tree. That's kind of how I base my power system, where everybody has this life force called Abra, and from that, the creator gave humans the ability to create with that whatever that they want, and so it's sort of like this spiritual essence that exists around your body, and again, I kind of liken it to a skill tree where you have sort of your physical enhancements, where you can solely focus on that and how it bolsters your speed, your defenses, your physical attack power, and all that stuff. Or you can go down the route of harnessing that power to create something where what you create takes up more Abra depending on how quote unquote unrealistic it is.
Okay.
So the more difficult it is for you to conceptualize something being real, the more Abra it takes from you to use, and your body kind of gets like, as you develop using it and stuff, your body kind of starts to like balance sort of a pool between using it as an ability versus just covering your body with it, which people can of course manipulate based on how they train their bodies.
Yeah.
But essentially it's like almost anything goes. At least I can make it so that almost anything goes. But there's certain things that are impossible, well, near impossible, and that's like creating living things. You can't inherently do that without some sort of manipulation outside of just your Abra. You can't use your Abra alone to create another living thing. That's something that the creator can do.
Okay.
And this is for humans. Now, the creator didn't give any other creature the ability to create what they want with their Abra. They can create, but they cannot create what they want, in a sense that like, if I was a human, I could create, lightning bolts, or I could create some sort of super sticky gum like Hisoka, or I could create, anything else. Whereas, like, if let's say I was, let's see, an angel, I was born with something, and I can only do that, and I can't do anything else.
Mm.
And so,
Okay.
Avra by itself is its most, like, in its purest form, it's in its most powerful and destructive form, but
Mm.
it's also um the least what's the word, convenient, or
Least
often
easiest to harness. If I remember correctly, I think I
yeah,
remember.
also
Very cheap.
extremely hard to harness on its own. It needs like a form of a conduit through the mind to properly
Mm.
be used, or else it's extremely draining
Yeah.
on the body.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
actually like that. I
Yeah.
like that a lot.
Mm.
And when you get into like more in-depth things, you start to get into um like using your avra as a sort of, you know how Hisoka used his nen to like use his nen to just increase his overall presence on Gon
Mm.
and Killua.
Yeah, yeah. The what was it? Yeah, one of the powers when he stacks thin next to the stopping them from getting onto a certain floor in it.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Basically, your avra can be used to do that, but it's it's also sort of a personality thing, like
mm.
Conqueror's Haki. Like, it's not like Conqueror's Haki where you're born with it, but you have to like
It's,
be a
it's
person
like
with
the will manifest basically. It reflects your inner like will or
yeah, in a sense. It
yeah
has to be in your personality to want to just utterly impose yourself on someone else,
yeah.
and you can, and it sort of reflects your inner
So when did you
spirit.
put it in there? Like
What'd you
7?
say? What?
Okay, I'll come down and get it.
Okay,
Nah.
but like, for example, most people when they use that ability on someone,
Mm.
it forces them to like bend to their will, and and how you know this happens is like you'll see like the plants around them will start to like bend as if they're bowing down, like submitting to the person using that, like all the plants around them, and the clouds will gather as if it's like they're following his or the person's orders.
Yeah.
So, but then there will be times where if a person is using it, but their spirit is like, it's not just a submit. Like there's two different types of submit, where you can submit out of sort of respect, but you can submit out of fear, and that's when you'll start to see like the the animals or the plants start to shake at the same time as if they're scared of what is there.
Mm.
Sort of giving the sense that everything is living.
Mm. No, yeah, I heard what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense. I've noticed. Well, I guess I want to say it's a never. A lot of times when you do get to the root of it, it always comes back to like everything's connected. And I've been I think a lot of people it's always been kind of like a thing of it's always been like if you look into it, if you look into a lot of power systems, it always kind of reaches like the root of everything, sort of thing. And also, even like in the monomyths, you look at the long ancient stories, it always kind of comes down to like everything's connected.
Yeah,
Really, I really like that. So yeah, yeah, totally
like
good.
and then there's of course there's the skill tree where you can sort of enhance your physical being, where
Mm.
you can of course just increase your overall avra levels to where you can be stronger, faster,
Mm.
more durable based on how much avra you have in your body at the time,
Yeah.
which is sort of a double-edged sword, because if you choose to train that versus training your body, you put yourself at risk of having, if you're running out of avra and fight, your physical
And your
body is
body
built,
staying dooful.
your physical body
Got
isn't like
ass
built
shots.
to handle the rest of the fight or whatever task you're going through.
Okay.
Of
Yeah.
course,
So what it doesn't. So it's so you're increasing the power of aura. It's not necessarily connected to your physical body.
exactly. Yeah, it's
It's
sort of an
like divorce from each other. Okay. Interesting. Interesting.
so there are people who choose to train that versus their bodies, and then there are people who choose to train their bodies, which is much harder to do, and there's more limits to that than training your aura, but it's more reliable in a sense.
Yeah. No. I see what you mean. Yeah. I guess when you say training, I guess I'm thinking extreme cases if like someone spent all their life just training one or the other, or they trying to go for both. There's going to be just inherent polarizing advantage disadvantages between them.
Yeah, like a person who trains their Avra will probably lose in a fight of attrition. They're more likely to lose in a fight of attrition than a person who trains.
Yeah. Okay, so it's
And
all
then there
training.
are people who just choose to train their bodies because they use their Avra for something else. And so they want to focus more of their Avra on that, and they'll just train their physical bodies. So it's all about a person's decisions in the end.
Okay,
That makes
And then
sense.
yeah, that's good.
there's further down that skill tree where you can sort of force your body to emit or put out more Abra than it does naturally. Kind of like, I guess the equivalent would be Kaioken.
Okay. Oh yeah. I see.
You force your body to emit more energy than it does on its own. So you're kind of giving yourself a boost in strength, speed, and whatever. But at that
Yeah.
point, you're kind of just burning through it. Like it's not going to last long at all. So it's almost like you're making the decision to end something quickly
Yeah.
because
It's kind of eight gates kind of ish, but yeah. Oh, carry Ken. Yeah, basically.
so there's that skill tree, and there's of course um, object manipulation, where you can sort of make an object an extension of your own body with the Avra, and that's how people are able to. I haven't fully gotten into that yet, just because I don't know exactly what I want to do with it.
Yeah.
Don't
It's just kind
want
of
to go
you haven't feel like
Yeah, I don't want to go the One Piece route where they sort of shoot projectile sword slashes, but I do like that. But I don't want that to be what it turns out to be. I want it to be something much more in depth than that. I fiddled around with the idea that every sort of weapon that is created, the owners sort of, not the owners, the creators sort of inherently poured some sort of ability into it that has to be unlocked through some sort of perfect, quote, I guess the best word would be synchronization or harmony between the user and the weapon.
yeah.
But I haven't really, thought about all that
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
So
Cool.
That's mine in a nutshell.
Cool.
is
Should
it- I mean, I think I have the
I
least
don't mind
amount
going.
of
I don't
power
mind
system.
going next.
I'm going.
All right.
I said-
Shit. Well, my power system is a little bit unique in the sense that it kind of has three parts of it, but each kind of part plays a role in the overall tone of the societal kind of, I guess, direction I want to take it. So, basic premise: basically, everyone in the world has evolved to where they have some sort of superhuman ability. Hybrids have one ability, deviants have two. So basically, you have your base ability, and then where my power system comes in is something called an echo. And basically, an echo is an amplification of said base ability. So, like the main character, his abilities are the ability to negate and the ability to copy other people's abilities. So his is a little bit different compared to everyone else's. So basically, you have an echo, which is basically like just the base amplification of your power. You can you just raise the power level of your base abilities, wherever it may be. The second step in that is called a continuous echo flow, which is basically like the manifestation of like your ability in some other form, be it like a weapon, be it like some animal manifestation. It's basically just like an extra. It's like an extra oomph in your base ability. Like, okay, Hiroshi, he can negate abilities. That's just his base ability. With an echo, he can kind of like release like an amplify, like a negation wave, like over a set amount of distance. So anyone within, say, about 30 or 40 feet, depending on how strong he is or how much effort he puts into it, anyone within that realm cannot use their abilities if they're weaker than him. If they're about as strong or stronger than him, the effect is kind of lessened a little bit. His copying ability really doesn't. It's not tied to his echo because one, he doesn't know how to use the ability of the person that he's copying, and two, he's basically copying the echo of someone else. So if he tries to copy the echo of someone who's way stronger than him, and however in comparison he is stronger to them or weaker than them, his body may implode. It may like his body may end up destroying itself, or or depending on how weaker they are, he can like use. He can basically like take his base knowledge of knowing how to use an echo and apply it to someone, even if he's copying an ability that he has never used. Like he fought someone who could use ice, but since he was stronger than them, he could do like little like I guess slick stuff like touching someone and having their entire body freeze over. Like that's like amazing control compared to someone who couldn't do that. So it's kind of experience too. Damn. I'm sorry, I hit cars. I'm walking home, but the third aspect of that, which is as far as I know, the complete mastery of an echo, is something called an echo world, and I would compare it to like domain expansion in Jujutsu Kaisen, but it's more or less tied to that person's like I guess their abilities or their personality. So basically, this person amplifies the echo to the point to where they trap someone in like a world where it's basically they have full control over what goes on. Their powers are amplified. It's basically like home field advantage for the person who cast it, and that's like the highest level that you can use your echo basically. But here's the thing about like the echo in general. I would say only about 5% of the population can use their echo, because that's something that like you have to train your body to do, and there is no like written down way to yes you have to unlock you unlock your echo this way. It's more or less tied to why are you doing it. Like there's certain things that you have to do in order to get to that point.
Okay. Each person's like reason is different because they're just different people and their like reasons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do their reasons have any like does it have any what's the word? Like do their reasons have any influence in how strong their
no, because it's kind of like whatever reason it is, whatever reason that you have to unlock it, that reason is just kind of I guess known to you like subconsciously, and it's kind of like you just do it. It doesn't really add to how powerful your echo is. That kind of thing ties into strength, the type of ability that you have, like experience, all of that. Like, and let's say I unlock my echo, and person B unlocks their echo, right? At that point, we're equal in terms of ability and like experience, because one, only 5% of the population has even unlocked their echo, so you're already like in the high majority. And two, at that point, it comes down to who trains more, like how diverse your ability is, how you decide to use it. Like it comes down to a whole bunch of things other than just, oh, I have fire, you have water, you can beat me because of that. It's more or less because it's just like, okay, maybe you use fire to like boil the water or something, like I don't know, because it comes down more or less to skill than just.
So everyone's on equal playing field in a sense, like in
basically.
If you were to like everybody's like if you were to give them like a raw power scaling number, everybody would have the same number.
Basically, everyone will start at the same point, but there are special cases because we are dealing with the top 5% of the people in the world. There obviously are special cases where someone is blessed with more like just potential than someone else. Like there are circumstances, strength, like all that, and I get to like mental stuff too that ties into you unlocking your powers. So like it's like just overall as a person, how far have you progressed as a person? What have you learned about yourself that ties into just getting your echo under control? Some people it could just be straight talent. They're just prodigies. Other people they just work extremely hard to get to that point. Like and other people they just never get it. Like they just stay at a certain level because there's mental stuff that you can't overcome, physical capabilities like you may be disabled and you can't get stronger, like just stuff like that. So that's kind of like the front part of the world. That's kind of like just society. I have a second power system that I just introduced. It's called Pure Blood. It's fairly easy, but remember how I mentioned how there are two kinds of races? Well, there are three because you have humans, deviants, and hybrids, basically. Basically, so basically, Pure Blood, and this is when the main character, he's kind of captured in prison. Basically, this power system kind of ties into how pure a blood is your race. Like, how pure of blood are you when it comes to your race, basically. So, because it's more or less like a genetic thing more than anything. This is where it's kind of like probability and shit. Like, there's not much that you can really do to change that. So, let's say, like, Hiroshi, let's say his blood is like 85% like pure deviant, right? He could only elevate his amplify, like he can only amplify his body to 85%. So basically, like every percentage that goes up, I say it's about a 2 to 3 times like amplifier. But here's the trick: if you don't know how pure your blood is, there's no way of knowing how high you can go before if you end up destroying your body. Like, say for instance, someone's body's like someone's like 62% hybrid, right? But they learn this technique and they push it to 85%. Their body, like they could like destroy their body, and that would be it. So basically, and it's only a technique that's kind of taught in like prison. It's not really something that's known to the outside world. So typically, like in the arc, like the first arc where the main character is outside of prison, people will only use echoes. But when he's in the prison, the main power system is him learning how to use like just pure blood power and just learning how all that works. So basically, and it kind of ties into his character as a whole. It's like he knows what an echo is, which is rare, but he also knows how to use this pure blood technique. And I would say the pure blood technique is comparable to the 8 gates, because I kind of deal with chakra points and all that, and like breathing, like concentration, like your heart rate, all of that. It's more or less about control over your body, because it directly ties into basically your body, your genetics. So that kind of ties into that. So yeah, and that, I think I have a third one. This one's kind of easier. This one's kind of easy to explain. I have something called primals, and that just got introduced. So primals it's basically my version of the 4 fundamental laws of the universe, because the 4 fundamental laws of the universe is basically the strong force, the weak force, gravity, and I forgot the other one. I forgot the 4th one. Basically, in the deviant world, it's basically the primal of power, the primal of bloodlust, the primal of conceptual stuff, like conception, and the primal of the emperor. And basically, like all like those primals basically give you almost godlike power. It basically gives you godlike power, because every person that is born, every living thing, is derived from the 4 primals, basically, since that is the beginning of creation. So everybody has the potential to unlock their bloodlust, but how that's activated, I haven't expanded upon yet because it's brand new. But I do have a plan. But that's basically it.
Okay, it's interesting. I think I was gonna say, the power system in prison. I think about the bloodline. So you said that you have a percentage of, depending on how much blood, like pure blood they are of, I think deviant. You said in one case.
Yeah, deviant or hybrid, basically.
There's a threshold percentage where, like, if they reach beyond that, they can hurt themselves. Like, is there like a measuring thing for them knowing that, or is it just more inherent? They have to feel that.
The thing is, that's kind of the fatal flaw in it, and actually, that's actually kind of a hint as to like a big part of the story as a whole, because the only way that, and since it's only taught in jail, the only way that you can like get like your blood tested without really going to like a clinic or whatever, but since like people in society outside of prison, they don't know what pure blood is, they're never going to ask if they're never going to think about it, so they don't ask. So Hiroshi, he just learned about what like the pure blood technique is.
Yeah.
And so basically, when he went to prison, he basically got his blood drawn by this doctor. I can't really say what the doctor is about, but he got his blood drawn by this doctor, and he was trained by someone in the prison to learn how to use it, but he wasn't taught that his body could. Well, he was taught that his body could overheat, but he doesn't know the exact limit, and that's kind of the big thing, I guess. Whenever I use it, I know what his limit is,
Yeah, yeah.
but I'm trying to write it as to where the person who's reading it, they don't know. Like,
Yeah. That would make sense because obviously even guess the character himself wouldn't really know, and it's kind of like inherent. Like you don't really know what 85% of blood is. And I guess I don't know. In my head, I think the reason I asked is like I guess in my head, like even if they find a threshold to them, that is their 100%. So then is it more?
Yeah.
5%? Is that more on not just them, but compared to someone else who's pure? I guess.
Okay, so for the tournament that I'm having, there are four main people who kind of control the prison. I call them pillars, basically, and these pillars, they all have pure blood techniques. Basically, they all know how to use it since they are in prison, and they have to learn it. And they are the strongest, like, group of people of each faction. The four factions are called Pompey, Zahak, Midgard, and Argos, and they're all references to different like mythos and religions and all that. So basically, Hiroshi fought the Argos pillar, and Hiroshi's 30% pure blood, which was already 2 times over his limit, basically, because the person who taught him said just to be sure, you like just don't go over 15%, because if you go over 15%, you could fuck up your body. So basically, he's fighting this pillar who was at one point who's keeping up with him, who wasn't even using his pure blood technique. So it's kind of like however strong your base is does play a part into how like powerful your pure blood is, basically. And it's kind of like how you can like multipliers. It's like if a kid somehow knew the pure blood technique, even if he was 100% pure, well, 100% that's kind of a different story. But let's say if he was like 99%.
Yeah.
If Hiroshi has gotten to the point to where at that point it wouldn't matter. If he went pure blood, he would wreck this kid, but he wouldn't have to because he's already so much stronger than him to begin with. So it's kind of like your base is like however strong you are, that's how much that's like your starting off point.
Like a multiplier on top of the thing, on top of the own thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Alright, I guess should I go through? Yeah, I'll go through. I'll go through mine. So I think I'm gonna just move forward, but like the basis of the world itself is made up of there's an energy because like in my head I got this like there's gonna be multiple worlds. Like in my story, like I started off like always when I started off, okay, there's gonna be in my story there's gonna be different worlds, and there's gonna be one sort of energy or power that connects all of them. It's gonna be which is just simply called the will or the will of the cycle, and and below that in the story world, like that manifests into because that will the cycle goes through all of the things. And also it manifests into dream worlds, or like it manifests into dreams, and it manifests through all worlds, and like that's like the purest form of energy. That's purest form of energy, and then on Earth in the living world, like just energy of the planet, which is just I would say in this case the will of the planet, and that the will of the planet comes into like. There's like I think like that. There's it's on the story so far. I've only shown like about 5 different elements blatantly, but there's one more. There's 1 or 2 more, which I don't like get into too much later because spoilers. But yeah. So basically, that in the world in the main story, like most characters you see, especially at the beginning. They use this power, and they use the power as like knight's armor. So basically, they use it as an elemental energy. Well, for when they use it, it's an elemental energy that they can use to shroud themselves in some sort of like armor. But the element they get depends on their nature and nurture. That was built. If they were born like of a father and a mother who had like water. Who are both like water knights, for example, they're more likely to become a water, aqua knight. in the story. Uh, also nurture as well. Like also how you're brought up could determine what element you're more leaning to. But like to actually use that energy, there's one thing you mainly need to do. You need to kind of bond yourself with a weapon. Like when that's a bond yourself weapon, it can be basically it's like it needs to be an inanimate object, which is not beyond yourself. So like a weapon, ideally made out of steel, but it can be like rock or something else as well. It could just be something part of the earth, part of what came from the earth. And you gotta like basically you basically when you're training you gotta like have that's you gotta it's gotta become like part of you basically. Like you gotta use it to the point where it's like it's part of yourself, and that's when it helps. That's when you kind of able to channel like the element of energy within yourself to actually use as a weapon. But if you don't do that, I probably should have done this before. If you don't do that, you get like ki or chi instead, which is like you have that anyways. You need that anyways to actually use knight's armor. But ki or chi is basically your inner energy, which is from you. So it's the energy you manifest yourself. You like without any like real assistance from the planet. And ki or chi is basically it's basically pure energy, which the upside to that is it's more flexible, so you're not really stuck to a certain element. Because the one downside to having a certain element of power is, okay, sure, you got an element of power, but then if you come across someone who's got a power, you're having an uphill battle with in that fight at best. So having like if you don't have that, you're able to be more flexible, because with chi, especially if you like learn like stuff like Shaolin or like some like sort of like techniques where you can use like you can manipulate your energy in ways where it can kind of act like water, but it won't be as good as like an aqua knight if you became an aqua knight, or it can act like fire, but it won't be as effective as a official flame knight.
Yeah.
Because you're more kind of not parrying them. I guess parrying them than really actually being them. But that's one thing that ki or pure energy is good at, is like it's really flexible, and like the power output you can get from it, it's much more, it can be much more potent in close quarters combat and that stuff.
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
So you said that like it's your power or your nature, not your nature, but your affinity.
Yeah.
Is from both nature and your nurture, right?
Yeah.
At what point does a person develop their affinity then?
They develop it as they grow up. So like ideally when you train to actually use knight's armor, ideally you do it at a young age, and you just like you develop it from there. So it's like obviously it depends on who your parents were, and then also then just like who your parents are, and also then you as a character, you as a person, who you're growing up to be, and who you are as a person. That determines what kind of element you're gonna fit into. It does. There are like cases where you can be like one element when you're younger, and it changes a bit. But if you've done the training you've done the training and got your knight's armor early, you more likely than not you're gonna stay that, because you've kind of like you've developed it now. Basically, you've developed it to that point.
So is your element something that you have like from birth? Or is it like, do you reach a certain age, or does it like unlock when you just
like from birth determines a good part of it. Like it determines a real good part of it. But your upbringing, and then your view on the world, and is like what like that also plays a good part. I don't know if I were to put a percentage on it, I'll say like 70% your birth, and then 30% like your upbringing.
I have a question. Would there ever be a circumstance where someone who can only access like 30% of their affinity or abilities, would there be a chance where someone could surpass that limiter, or is there like a technical point where someone even know they can only have 30% that they could like surpass someone or beat someone who could have access to 50% or maybe 60% of like their affinity?
You can train to become more efficient in using Knight's armor, but I think the biggest focus I think I really have on my story is more. It's more the skill, the element you have, and how you use it. I think that's like the biggest. That's what makes a real a knight. It's like kind of in Hunter x Hunter, where it's like you need to know the opponent you're going after. You need to know like how to hunt them and how to use your skills to actually take advantage. That's kind of more what I want the power system to like to cater to. So
Okay.
So for example, like obviously because you have elemental powers when you have knight's armor, the environment is a good key part on like whether on your advantages and disadvantages. So like an aqua knight, if they're around water, they can actually use channeled water to add onto the power, the water they can conjure up to make it easier for them to fight. If you're a flame knight, being around flames is a good advantage. If you're an gale knight, you're just lucky. Unless you're being submerged underwater, you're kind of always in your element. They get slapped for that. But yeah, Earth Knights as well. Yeah, same thing. If you're in an element, you're in an advantage. But like because of like there's elements, there are elements that play against each other, and there's a bit of a rock paper scissors with the elements. So yeah, so if you're an Aqua Knight and you versus a Flame Knight, well, the Flame Knight's gonna be he's gonna have an uphill battle. It's doable. If anything, it does come down to environment, skill, and just your knowledge in thing, and then yeah. So like it's not like so much this Flame Knight versus Water Knight. Definitely you're gonna win for the Water Knight. It's like it's a bit more nuanced than that. But yeah, like that's the knight's armor, and then, but like the thing is with these elements, like because all living things have the energy to be able to do this. There are some animals who are able to actually use elements as well, and also let me see, there's that, and then yeah, and also what's it? I think there's another important part is like there are because the thing is again, I don't want to say too much spoilers. I don't say too much spoilers, but as I start the story, I make like it seems like the only thing you can do with the elements is kind of use it as armor and use the powers to kind of like for like different applications and fights. But then you realize I don't know there will be other people. There's that other race. There's like another race of people. Kind of earlier on, I put in like the remake of the story where they use the elemental powers, but they don't really use it as armor. They use it more like let's say it's more like they use it more like a stand kind of. That makes sense. So like they use the same powers. They use the same like sort of element powers, but they've developed it in a different way. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, it can be used in different ways, but like the majority of the world in this place, they either use it as knight's armor, or yeah, they mainly use knight's armor. But then there are obviously there's other races who use like just pure chi, like there's like the temple of like those like the temple monks who use it. Who just use the pure chi, don't really use the knight's armor. And yeah, then I think there's the powers of like the angels and demons as well, which is like you soon find out like there are a big influencer on why most of the people use knight's armor in the first place, especially the demons. The relationship with like how the humans got out of like subjugation from the demons many years ago is a big part of why everyone kind of inherently use the power to shroud themselves in protection, because it could have been different, but because of what they went through, over a long time ago, it's just they inherently kind of it became like that. So So it kind of hints to it, the power, this power system is not just like you don't have to arm yourself with it, but it's done due to circumstances.
Yeah,
I have a question. How many elements did you say? I don't know if I caught that.
I think he said 5, right?
Yeah, I want to do this. There's 5 which I know right now. Like in fact, I've got like a poem that literally has like each element on there, even like not even hidden one, but like yeah, but there's like 5 that's like going. Let me just go through them. Like there's dark, there's gale, there's water, there's no, sorry, there's 7. There's 7. There's 7 and there's one that's that I haven't like fully made it be known as, hey, this is a thing just yet, but it literally connects to like the will of the cycle and everything, and it literally gets all the power systems all together. Because like there's the angel power, which I guess the real main difference I can say right now is that like the angel powers, one big difference is that where the element powers is more like an armor shroud around themselves. Angel powers is they're able to, well, at least this one, they're able to like use their powers on a far-reaching area. Like they can affect the climate, whatever, and like at a certain range. Like for example, like the main character, she's got like she was spirit of angel blood, so she has the power of like one of the angel storms. And one thing she can do is affect the weather and cause lightning and storms. So yeah, and that's because of like the angel powers she got. But like one of the reasons why she's able to like affect the wide area around her, yeah, it's literally because of the angel powers. Like if it was lightning powers, she wouldn't be able to like cause like a storm. I don't know. I find them not the best at saying that, but yeah, that's right. And then I think demon powers, they mainly deal with like space manipulation in different ways. Yeah, because they can move through realms quite easily. Yeah, that's like one different. Yeah, they can move through realms quite easily, and also most of them are like they all have like exoskeleton. So their body is usually have like really hard like exoskeleton around themselves, so they're really like tough to like tough to kill, which is one of the main reasons why Knight's armor became Knight's armor in the first place, because when they were fighting the demons a long time ago, they kind of like I think, like you'll find out later on, like one of the main key things about the humans and the powers they have is like they learn and they learn and inherit things from like the struggles they go against. So like when they're fighting the demons, that's when they kind of develop Knight's armor. But Knight's armor was kind of like their take on the tough exoskeleton demons had, which they couldn't, which made them hard to kill. So that was like their take on it. And that's the reason why it's kind of like there's a whole thing of like the power system kind of became like Knight's armor, though it could have been not exactly like that.
Okay, I have a question. Do you feel like there are any holes where you feel like a character could kind of take advantage of the power system and kind of break it a little bit, where like the original rules that you set in stone kind of don't apply to him, but not in a way that breaks the story, but in a kind of like in a sense where it kind of like flips the power system on its head a little bit, and it kind of makes you rethink what's possible with what's already been established.
Are you asking him or just in general?
I think
in general.
I'll answer that after.
Yeah, there are
these
some
problems
cases,
aren't
not
even
too. I
that
don't
prevalent.
feel there's not too many. Like I do know Natalie, the main character, at like some point is gonna like make you question it, because before she was spirit and got angel powers, she was able to use Knight's armor. She was actually able to use like she was becoming a knight. She was training to become a knight, and But then after that happened, she it doesn't get inherently told straight up for a good while, but you find out that she lost that ability. She basically wasn't able to do that ability. Like I think best way she explained that at one point is like when I try to do it whilst having these powers, it's like I'm trying to look left and right at the same time. So there are like things like that are put in place around now that kind of get like over time you kind of feel okay, this wasn't as like inherently impossible as she thought it was back then. So I guess hinting to like she's able to kind of like use her powers again. Not perfectly, but yeah, there's stuff like that. And also like there are some like things like I was saying of that Knight's Armor like only having. You probably think where I say it like you only can have one element, but you could have two, but like it, but it's kind of come under like whether you use like double-handed weapons because the way you develop into the site like into the path of like whatever element you have, it it kind of it does fall on whether you're left-handed or right-handed, and from like I know like I have explained in my power system, but it's like imagine in the power on the thing it's like a hexagon. I probably might show the picture. It's like a hexagon, and it has different paths of like the elements put on the outside, and like depending on your nature and nurture, you probably start like a certain point on there. Like you might start between like, for example, like Gale Knight and Aqua Knight. But then if you were like right-handed, for example, and Gale Knight was like Gale Knight would be like on the an example would be like on the right, and you know you're right-handed and start developing your powers using your right hand, like that became your dominant hand, you're gonna get Gale Knight powers. But like if you was in the same place, same position, but then you're left-handed, you'll get like Aqua Knight powers in this example. But like there are people, or there's some characters, a few characters who it's see it's not happened wild. Like it's not say more recently because over the years, because these powers were a thing long, like very long time ago. But then they got forgotten. Then they've come back. But when they came back at the beginning, it was very not subtle. Like it was subtle, and it's only over time. Like each generation is getting a bit more prominent into the. It's kind of almost come back to the point where it was back a long time ago. But so like in my story at the current point is like about, I say like 50 years ago, people starting to see okay, the people who use some people use double-handed weapons are able to like mix two elements together and get something new. Like there's one character who uses two weapons. You have to use like because you have to use Gale. I think it was Gale and Aqua Nat powers, and he's able to make ice. So yeah, there's little caveats like that mixed in there.
All right. So with mine, I guess there's two, like, real things. Like, of course, there's the people who sort of, as I said before, in the skill tree have the more advanced part of the skill tree. But then there is, I don't know if I got to this, but the cherubim, right? They have a lot more Avra, like a much bigger pool of Avra on average than humans, just because that's how their bodies are. Because they can't use it outside of just using it in its pure state. Now there are some cases, and in this case, in the most extreme case of cherubim having children with humans.
Okay.
And in that case, that's when you get the best of both worlds, where you get the stupid amounts of Amra mixed with the ability to manipulate it any way you want. You have the Nephilim children, or in my story, at least so far, I only have the children of Michael, who I plan to make like all sorts of historical like legends, where they're like people who they like make them seem like they're supernatural, like Hercules and stuff like that, where they're sort of quote unquote game breaking in a sense, where they have that ability to like use Avra however they want, but then they have that extremely high Avra amount to where it's like they don't have that trade-off where all the other characters do. Just that they don't have like the full shareable amount of aura, but they're not like that far off.
Okay.
And I guess the only other thing is that similar to it is that you can still create living things with your aura, but it requires a lot of unnatural things to happen. Like there's one cherubim who, I guess for lack of a better word, mates with the world, with one of the worlds that he's supposed to be in charge of guarding, which gives birth to new species.
Okay.
But those species, because they're not supposed to create like living things, they always come out some sort of warped and grotesque creatures.
That's
Okay.
pretty. Wow. Shit. I was only asking one because I did want to hear like other people's thoughts on that, but two because I kind of had a character that I would say is kind of power system breaking in the sense of kind of like rethinking what said power system could do, like at first, because I had mentioned the Echo world. Basically, you're creating a world where it's basically like home field advantage. I had a character. Well, I have a character. She has an Echo world that that kind of expands an infinite distance, and it's basically a universe in and of itself. A universe that kind of has its own life inside of it. It kind of it's in it's occupying this infinite space in the prison, and she calls it Persepolis, basically, and that's I believe that's a reference to some Persian. I think that's a Persian reference, I believe. But kind of like her Echo world is kind of in reverse, where instead of using it to attack people or like in a fight, it's actually like a place where like almost 99.9% of the prison is being held, but it's being occupied by these four factions in the prison that make up about, I would say, 40. It's 40. It started at 47. It's at 44 right now, and that's 44 out of hundreds of prisoners. And it ties into her character as a whole, which is kind of why I felt like it could kind of break the power system a little bit, because it kind of does tie into like mental stuff and like where you are mentally in terms of just anything in general. But
like a more yeah, I see what you mean. It's like it's not so much physical stuff. It's more stuff of
mental.
Okay, yeah.
Because since I just released the chapter just like 15 minutes ago, so I can say it since it's public knowledge. So basically, there's a character. Her name is Mandana. She's the leader of the strongest faction in the prison, Zahak, and they're being held in a place called Elysium, which is basically where the tournament is taking place. It's not taking place like in the base prison. She has literally created a world where the tournament can be taking place. It's really like imagine okay, like take this universe right that we're in, right? But just like when you go to prison and then like she takes you to this other realm where it's basically another universe inside of that world.
Basically.
Yeah, basically. But when you're in it, it's basically an entire universe. Like time runs differently there. The stars, like I referenced the stars kind of zipping across the sky really, really quickly. Like it's not like normal, and like they reference it a lot. And basically, Mandana, she was someone who, when she was born incredibly powerful. Like to the sense where the government was like, we need to take her, and we cannot have her like reproducing children. So basically, what they did to her is they took away her ability to have children early on as a kid. So now she's kind of dealing with this thing where she wants like basically like the most important thing that makes a woman was taken away from her. So now she kind of has this yearning feeling to want to nurture people and to like kind of like have like a family of her own. But since she kind of can't, and since she's in prison because she's too powerful. So now she kind of has to take like the prisoners around her, kind of make it kind of like a family kind of deal. And she is, I would say in hindsight, she is a good person, and her Echo World kind of makes everyone stronger in a sense. Like, it's literally like a nurturing world. Like, there's different types of life in this world. Like that's growing, that's sentient, that's like thinking, like that can talk, all of that. And that was just kind of like my take on taking a power system and like I guess breaking it in a sense where that level of power is unlike anything that was ever shown so far. So do any of you guys kind of have something where it's kind of like just the level of power
I guess,
that
I
a
do.
certain character displayed kind of was like, oh shit, like this person seems almost omnipotent basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do like when you can get like a story and you kind of like get into like I guess not I guess dream world, not dream world, but like alternate realities stuff. Yeah. Like
Oh yeah, her powers. Oh yeah, her powers to make to have the powers make sense. They're tied directly to her abilities. Okay, so she's a deviant basically, and she has two abilities basically. Her first ability is like to disintegrate things. Basically, like whatever she touches, like she can completely disintegrate. She can snap her fingers. She could like breed, like constitute stuff back like to normal. Like she's insane, basically. Like, it's kind of like Shigaraki, but just like on a completely different level. And her second ability is like to like warp space, but it's only with like her right and her left hand, basically.
Okay.
Like she can't like she can kind of amplify like her ability, but it's mainly kind of featured towards. So she fights basically just using her hand. Like she can't like if someone hits her in her face, she can't like it's not like if you touch her, like your body disintegrates. So it's also big crazy shit like that. It's just like if she grabs a hold of you, it's basically wraps. Like and she kind of disguises it in a sense to where like you kind of don't know what it is. So it's since she kind of uses it to do the same thing, but yeah, but I'll let y'all go ahead.
Yeah, I think it just you mentioned that it reminded me like I do have like I don't know because I guess it's like it's already in like in the collab. Because always wanted to like I said doing like different worlds and like dream worlds and stuff, and like at some point like it's happened for a while. The main character she has obviously she's got angel powers, and at some point she starts realizing like she can start reading like she can start hearing the thoughts of other people's minds, but not just anyone's. Like it depends on the strength of the person's like knight's armor or their will, basically. She found that out kind of early because like in the battle where one of the big battles she had when she first got it, she could hear her friends thoughts, but at the time he was kind of like he was drained, he was almost spent. But then like when he started recovering everything, like she's like okay, I can't hear him. Do you remember like something the one of the main villains was saying? And he was like, okay, he was kind of hinting to it's like it like knight's armor even kind of help like people with that strength are able to like they're even able to protect themselves from like these kind of powers, although you wouldn't inherently be aware of this kind of power because it's like it's not something that's common knowledge because she's kind of because of the power she got. It's like no one's really walking around with that kind of power. But yeah, at some point she kind of like she kind of goes to this dream, like she gets pulled into this dream world at one point, and like at the time she was thinking because she's heard of like it's always like kind of said in quite a lot of these in the world of things like there is as many worlds as there's stars in the sky, so it's kind of like, and that always kind of like implied that even some dream worlds could be like can affect the real world in some ways. So at the beginning she's like okay cool, not a cool, like she's like yeah okay I guess it's another weird ass quirk on my powers because like by this point she's kind of gotten used to like some of the weird crap that she had to like adapt to. So At the top, she was like, okay, well, I just need to find a way to get out of here. And she comes across, she needs to find like she needs to find a source of like whatever's creating this world. And when she finds them, she realizes like this person it's not only just is a person, it's someone's lingering will that's died. Like the real person died, must have died a while ago, and it's a lingering will that has like basically because of maybe past traumas and the stuff they had, they've manifest this world around them and basically built themselves like this imaginary world to live in. And yeah, we just find out it's like, oh crap. And yeah, like a lot of that story is kind of like it kind of deals in like the cognitive world, and that kind of gets crazy because like there's the power system there is a bit more, it's a bit more soft magic, so it's a bit more like I said, like there's the power of the power of will is kind of like what is like a real central basis of all the powers of like all the powers of the world. It's like the root of it, and it really comes to 11 here because they're able to like their will, if they believe in like a certain thing, be able to do a thing. Yeah, if they believe a certain thing is possible, or can fathom the thing in their head strong enough, they are able to like make it manifest. And like that goes both ways for them and also for the people or like the trouble that's there. Yeah, it makes it quite dangerous there. But yeah, like that's another aspect of the power system, I guess. And also I think there's demon swords as well. But I feel like I go on and on. But yeah.
No, a unique and complex power system, if explained right, can be really wild. Like it can be really well received, and it can start like a whole trend of other things. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to come up with some stuff that's really never been touched upon before. But how did you guys go about like introducing your power system? Was it kind of like explained, or was it more or less shown? Because I've seen a couple shows kind of do both really well. Like Jujutsu Kaisen, even like they kind of show it, but they also explain it really well in a sense where it doesn't feel like it's taking up time. It's just more or less like, okay, this makes sense. So when this does happen, you know why this is happening. Or are you guys more or less, let me just show them, and then I'll have them figure it out
for
as
me, it's more of a okay, so you know how I have like a sort of prologue part to my story?
Oh, I have to go.
Alright.
All right.
Yeah, I'm in the stream too.